Well, hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Amanda. I am a breast cancer survivor and I'm a competitive athlete. If you have been around for a while, thank you so much for sticking with me. Your support means so much. It is so wonderful that you are here. And as promised, as you might see from the title of this video, we're going to be getting into all of the things that happened during my journey with breast cancer. So a few years ago, I posted a video kind of giving you a bit of an overview of everything, of how, just the general overview. So nothing too specific, kind of a bit of the dates and everything, but I promised I would get more into depth about what happened and all the processes, and that's kind of what we're going to do today. It's going to be a multi-part series here, and the first one of this series I'm going to talk about kind of what my life looked like before I was diagnosed. I know a lot of people, when I was initially diagnosed, because I was only 32, like I had literally just turned 32 when I was diagnosed back in 2019. So it's been a bit since that initial diagnosis, but it was one of those situations where it just didn't make sense why I would be diagnosed with this. Like, why would I get cancer? 32 is so young, and I felt like a lot of people were trying to point to a fault within me. Of course, it's my body that decided to attack itself and try to kill me, but it's interesting because instead of trying to like help me, initially people were so puzzled and wanted to blame that maybe I did something wrong, I ate the wrong things, or I wasn't active. So if you've been following me for years, you know that I'm an athlete. That's always been part of my life. Sure, there's been times in life where I've been more active than not, but for the most part, my baseline was definitely being active. So let's go back in time a little bit. So I was diagnosed in March of 2019. The lump was found in February of 2019. So I have my computer in front of me, so you might see a little bit of a weird glow, but bear with me. I have my Google Calendar out. Let me know in the comments below if you were like me. My Google Calendar, it's like my ride and die. I live by my Google Calendar. It is color coded with all of the activities, all of the different things, and I have a pretty detailed record of all of the doctor appointments I was doing. So I'm going to kind of go back in time just a tad. I had something going on in 2018. I may have touched on this a little bit in my previous videos, but in 2018 I was seeing an OBGYN doctor because I had a growth that was found just as an incidental find. I had to have a scan of some sort. So let me look back in time and we will see, because I had to do an MRI. I'm thinking it was for my lower back. I think that's how this all got started. I had to do a MRI for my lower back. I had some issues and some pain. I have a little bit of degenerative disc disease in my lower back, and I was having some pain, and so they just wanted to rule things out. And as a incidental find, they found a growth on my ovary. So that was very scary because at that time breast cancer wasn't even on my radar. That wasn't even a thought. But with the growth on my ovary, I knew I had to get like an ultrasound done. It's one of those, I guess they call it like a pelvic ultrasound, where they do like over and then they do like the one where you have to like hold your pee, you know, you have to drink a ton of water. That way they can get good imaging It's a whole thing. If you know, you know. But I had to do one of those, and it ended up just being a dermoid cyst, so it's likely something I've had forever. And they watched it over a period of years. There was no changes in the growth or the size. It's always been there. But it is something that we do monitor to this day because it is a larger cyst. It could cause ovarian torsion, which we don't want because that could be very deadly. But that's kind of where things were at in 2018 prior to my diagnosis. And I remember thinking, I just had this really weird thought that, wow, maybe this is the last time I'm doing things or going things. And at that time I did have a significant other, and I remember celebrating his birthday thinking, gosh, this could be the last birthday I'm around here for. And I remember between that and going to physical therapy and stuff, trying to get my back stronger, I could barely walk a lot at this time. I had to like stop everything. I had to stop training for the marathon I was going to do. I had to pause on gymnastics for a while. And like I could see on my schedule here, I had all these runs that I was doing up until a point where the pain was just so bad that I had to just stop. And so I can see, looking through this calendar of mine, I was just in so many appointments. Like I had MRI done in November of 2018. I was also dealing with a hard time too. My grandmother had just passed in 2018. I was in a lot of grief. So I thought, oh, maybe some of the pain and stuff could be from that. Just, you know, your body just does weird things. But I was going to physical therapy. And I'm just looking forward at this, looking at this calendar, and I could see this particular weekend I had surprised my now ex, but at that time, you know, was my partner at the time. I surprised him with this really, really cool trip, and I remember not being able to hike as much as I wanted to, but, you know, I still had fun. And yeah, I'm just looking at my schedule here, and I'm trying to see. I remember once I found out that it was just a cyst, I was like, cool, we're good. There's nothing to be worried about. I can continue. Life is all good. I can resume. And I can see, based on my schedule that I have here, January 18th of 2019, so a couple days after my birthday is on January 16th, a couple days later, I had been told that it was just a cyst on my ovary. We were good to go. I could have it surgically removed, but I wanted to preserve my reproductive function because I still wanted to be able to have children at some point if that was what I wanted. So I felt like I was in the clear, best gift ever, and what a relief. So, you know, things kind of resumed as normal. I can see I went to Pilates, I went to cycling, I went to a rowing class. I can see that I was starting to build up my fitness again. I had finished physical therapy. I had gotten the all clear that there was nothing wrong. And then, let's see, so January finished. I went to UCLA to watch the UCLA gymnastics meet. I was just happy, grateful. I was like 32. This is going to be a great year. And I think I shared this in a previous video, but I had thought my 30s were going to be the best decade of my life. My mom had always told me that her 30s were her favorite. And I was like, cool, it's got to be the same for me, right? It's going to be great. It's going to be a good time. And I just remember moving forward, thinking things were great. And, you know, I actually took the time to do my hair and eyes and my makeup. And, you know, I just felt pretty and happy. And I was like, this is great. You know, we are in a good phase of life. This is going to be a fantastic year. And then, well, as you know from my story, everything changed. So I'm looking here. I went to, oh, here's what we'll talk about. The weekend before everything changed, I went to go see my parents. So I flew up to see my mom and my dad before they both passed, and before my whole cancer thing. I used to routinely go about every 4 weeks. I would fly up north to help them, spend time with my best friend, and do all the things. And I'm looking at this weekend. It's like my last normal weekend on life. That, you know, my last normal everything. I went to spend time with my parents. If you play Pokemon Go, you might know of the whole community day thing. So I met up with my best friend for Clamperl. It was community day for Clamperl. I have that in my calendar. We were in Reno, Nevada for that. So we went there. I think we walked around a casino or something. I don't know what we did, but we were in Nevada playing Pokemon Go and trying to catch all the shiny Clamperls. I don't know how it's pronounced. Tell me if you know. But yeah, we went up and played that game, walked around, and then I came home on Monday the 25th. And then I went and walked one of my favorite dogs, who's sadly no longer with us, but I went and walked him. I was off to a great Tuesday, and Tuesday, February 26th is the day everything changed. I had my appointment with my OBGYN doctor, and she had pushed me in a good way, this is good, to do my Well Woman's exam. And I think I might have shared with you in a previous video, I really didn't want to go. I thought about canceling. I'm like, do I really need to do this appointment? Can I put it off? I'm so glad I didn't. I went to this appointment, and it was, you know, the normal, you know, you do the pap smear, you do the breast exam, and I remember her spending a lot of time on my left side, which is the side I ended up having cancer, and she found my lump. And that's the day my life changed forever. And she saved my life because she knew something was wrong. She could tell something was wrong. And I, in particular, I have very dense tissue, so I know that could be a little of a TMI thing, but it's important, especially for women, to know this, that tissue density matters. If you have denser tissue in your breasts, it can be harder to detect cancer, so you need to do more thorough screenings if you have denser tissue. Not everybody does, but I did, and so I'm very lucky that she was able to detect that. And she told me I would need to have a mammogram, and I almost thought that was like crazy talk because I'm 32 years old. I'm not 40 yet. Why would I need a mammogram? Like, can't they just tell me there's nothing wrong? It's gonna be okay. But it was hard, it was scary, and I'm really glad that, you know, I went. So I went to that appointment, and then let's see how long it took. It took a bit to get in. So Tuesday the 26th of February is when I went to my OBGYN, and then the following Monday, so I had to wait a week, I went in for my mammogram on the 4th. And I remember it vividly. I had my hair, I had it all French braided, and I had it kind of wrapped around, and I just was really happy with the way I had my hair that day. I had a pretty easy day at work. I just had 2 drop-in visits for some longtime clients of mine. You know, I did the morning one, all was good. Then I went to my mammogram, and I kind of just went in with this mindset of being a little bit afraid, but also thinking I was just going to be told that there was nothing wrong. and it was going to be fine, right? It was going to be fine. And that's when things changed and made it really scary. They told me that something was very, very wrong and I would need a biopsy. You know, they had that BI-RAD scale and it was really high up there. I can't remember the exact number. I'm sure I said that in the other video, but I remember going in for that and it was just absolutely terrifying. Like, they knew, I knew, it just had to be confirmed through a biopsy, and I would have to wait for that. And I remember just like shaking, and I was bawling my eyes out in the parking lot in the car. And I called my mom, and she just tried her best to reassure me, and she said, oh, it's probably nothing, you're too young, 32-year-olds don't get cancer, it's probably just a cyst. Because that was like what happened with my ovary. This is what was probably going to be here. It was just going to be a cyst. It was going to be fine. There was just nothing wrong with it. And it was hard because there was just like, I don't know if it was like the adrenaline, the flight or fight, like my whole world was just spinning and spinning and spinning. And I just, because you know, the unknown, if you've been through this, you know that the unknown is just incredibly difficult. It's incredibly hard to know the specifics of everything. It's incredibly challenging because you're planning to live, but you're planning to die. You want to know what the right answer is, or how to do this, or how to navigate this, and there's just so many moving parts, and it's like an experience. You've never been there before. What do you do? Just, I feel like you feel everything and nothing all at once, all super fast, all super slow, but then you're expected to just pick up and continue on living your life as if nothing just happened. And I just was in such a daze. I had to like pull myself together, go back to work. I had to be back at work at 1 p.m. that day. That appointment was at 10, so I had some time to like collect myself. And then I had to let my then partner know what had happened. And that was hard. And then that night, I really thought, like, I had a bike booked at Cycle Bar. It's kind of like Soul Cycle. We don't have it in town anymore, but I remember going to Cycle Bar, and I was so grateful because it's one of the ones where like the lights are a lot darker and everything. And I remember just like sobbing, just bawling my eyes out, sobbing that night, because I was just so scared, didn't know how to process. I needed to work out the energy, and as an athlete I need to like do things. So I had to wait for a biopsy. So that was Monday, March 4th. So we're already like 7 days into this new adventure, and had to go to work. I had to do an overnight house sitting job that weekend. I still went to yoga and cycling, so I was still being active. I was still working. I can see I played a little bit of Pokemon Go. And I did the Pilates class, took my cat to the vet for his appointment, and then I went to therapy a couple times. I can see I was going to therapy to process, you know, the loss of my grandmother. We were very close, and I remember trying to discuss the breast cancer thing with that therapist, and he had a really hard time because he seemed to act like it was an inappropriate topic, but that's the reality of my situation. So he ended up not being a good fit for me long term when I stopped seeing him. But therapy is very important. Highly recommend it. It is really wonderful once you find that right fit. So I remember going to that appointment and scheduling one before my biopsy. So 10 whole days later, I went in for my breast biopsy. Now, I had never had any sort of procedure like this done in my life. At this point, I had never had surgery. I I never had anything like that. And it went quick. She knew exactly how to do it. She was such a pro at her job. She was very good, but I just remember being just, it was just like a scary, traumatizing, hearing the clicking of the biopsy needle in your body. That was hard. So that's 10 whole days from the mammogram that I had to wait for the biopsy. You would think, knowing that what they saw, they knew something was going on, they would press to get me in sooner, but it was 10 whole days. So now we're at March 14th, 2019 on a Thursday, and I didn't work that weekend. I was in such a daze. I think based on my schedule, this is correct. It's gotta be. Like, up until my biopsy, I was still working out, but I ended up being really in a lot of pain and sore, and I just couldn't go. So I can see I went back to work on that Monday, and I had to go see my parents. I can see on my schedule here, this is hard because I was kind of like, I was in charge of my parents' medical care, and I remember thinking, like, in the back of my mind, am I really going to be able to be there for my parents? Am I going to be there to be able to help? What is that going to look like? What happens, like, what if something happens to me? And that weekend I had to fly up because my dad was in end-stage renal failure. He was on dialysis, and I needed to be there at an appointment to go over comfort care and things like that. My dad would end up passing away later that year, but it was just like trying to navigate their care while knowing that I might be up against something big. So that Thursday I flew up to see my parents that night, and I spent the whole day with my mom and dad. And then it happened. Friday, March 22nd of 2019, almost an entire month. That's a long time. A long time, okay? It shouldn't be that long, but an entire month from start to finish of finding the lump. So remember, February 26th, the lump was found. March 4th, I had the mammogram. March 14th, I had the biopsy, and then it wasn't until the 22nd I got my news. It was just before 5 p.m. Of course, they do it right before closing, so you can't really ask questions. My surgeon and the OBGYN and the surgeon and all the different doctors, like, they were the ones that were supposed to give me the news and intercept that. However, my primary care doctor's office grabbed the notice. They got the information, and it was, I think, the receptionist or nurse or somebody called to let me know. And that's when I got the news that I had breast cancer. And in that moment, everything changed forever. Everything was different. It was devastating. And it's like your brain just goes a mile a minute. You don't know. It's like you don't know what you don't know. You're thinking of every scenario possible, but you don't even know all the scenarios of what could be possible or what isn't possible. All I knew about breast cancer is it happened to people that were older than me, not 32-year-olds. And like, my parents are both not healthy, and I tried so hard to be as healthy as I possibly could, because I knew like history of like kidney disease and heart conditions and cancer to some extent, like what ran in my family, and I wanted to do everything I possibly could. I had like a paternal aunt had breast cancer, and then my paternal grandmother and paternal great-grandmother both had breast cancer. But from what I understood, and if you guys know different, I thought it ran on like the maternal line, not the paternal line. But with all the genetic testing that they would do later on, it wasn't genetic or anything. It was just a random thing that happened. But that's how long it took to get to that specific moment, though, of saying that I had cancer. And even then, they didn't give me the correct diagnosis. They kind of downplayed it as being just ductal carcinoma, which still isn't just, it is cancer, but it was invasive ductal carcinoma, and it was considered poorly differentiated, so it meant that it was just kind of growing real fast and rapidly. Is Kiki saying hi? Are you saying hi? Come here. Kiki's made an appearance. I don't know if you can see his cute little ears. He has settled down quite a bit since you guys saw him last in that one video. He still gets offended when I'm on camera talking to somebody or in a Zoom meeting. I think he's gotten better over the years, but he's still living his spoiled, happy kitty life. Oh, you gonna take a nap? All right, Keekster. Good boy. He's laying on his back now, resting. He's gonna be 8 this year. My 8-year-old boy. Love you, Kiki. Yeah, just absolutely wild. That weekend, I still went to the appointments that I had. I still saw my best friend. I met up with a group of my friends for community day for Pokemon Go, so we all played that together. And I remember like leaving that trip just thinking, gosh, is this going to be the last time I see my parents? Is this going to be the last time I see my best friend? Is this going to be the last time I see everybody I care about? Is life, what does that look like? What happens next? So I'm going to stop here. So that's kind of all of the lead up to the diagnosis. The next video, we're going to talk about what happened next, like all of the appointments, all of the crazy things that led up to actually starting treatment, getting a treatment plan, getting all of those things in motion. So buckle up. It's probably going to be another long video. So hopefully you grabbed the beverage and you came and you hung out and you stuck with me. It means so much. And let me know in the comments down below what you would like to hear more specifically about my diagnosis, my cancer journey, all of those things. Let me know. I plan on putting more things together and I can answer your questions more specifically. Now, treatment has changed, I know, for a lot of people. I mean, we're talking 2019 here, so it has been a minute, but I am curious to know what you guys want to know more about. So let me know. So I appreciate you being here. It means the world to me. And please take a moment to like, subscribe, share, comment, do all the things. I'm so grateful. As of today, recording, there's 184 friends. So thank you so much for being here. It really means a lot that you care about what I have to say. And, you know, if I can make the difference for one person, then I'm doing my job. I just want somebody to not feel alone, because I know when I was 32 and I got diagnosed, I was like, what the heck? What's going on? So anyway, I'll leave you here. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.